1. Diffraction. Spreading of waves. When water wave pass an opening, the kind of water in the geometric shadow is also set into vibration. In other words, the wave spreads around the edge into the geometric shadow of the obstacle. This is called diffraction of wave. 2. Factors affecting the degree of diffraction. From the experiment, we can see that the amount of diffraction depends on the relative size of wavelength and opening or obstacle. Diffraction of wave becomes more significant when the wavelength is relatively larger and or the opening is smaller. These pictures summarize the results. In other words, for fixed wavelength, but the opening size decreases, the amount of diffraction increases. And for the same opening, but with longer wavelength, the amount of diffraction also increases. Follow the steps in this skill section when you are asked to draw waveforms in diffraction. Questions of this type focus on changes, usually with different openings or with different wavelengths, and you have to show the change in the amount of diffraction. In example 3, sketching the diffraction patterns. There is an obstacle. The wave diffracts after passes next to the obstacle. In part A2, the waves with smaller wavelength does not diffract much, producing a longer shadow of the obstacle. In example 4, the reason why the balls are so packed is explained by the phenomena of diffraction of water waves. Example 5, studying how the wavelength of waves affects the degree of diffraction. You are asked to describe the experimental procedure to change the wavelength of water waves in a ripple tank, and then observe the change in diffraction. Try check point 4 below.
We will see how water waves are diffracted in different situations by using a ripple tank. We first use a barrier to block straight water waves. Observe the patterns beyond the obstacle. Send straight waves to pass through a gap between two barriers. What happens to the waves after passing through the gap? Gradually, reduce the gap to about 1 centimeter and observe the new diffraction pattern formed. Increase the frequency of the water waves so that the wavelength is decreased. See how the wave pattern changes. Send straight water waves towards a small obstacle. Observe the wave patterns beyond the obstacle. Send straight water waves towards a large obstacle. How does the size of the obstacle affect the passing of water waves? Increase the frequency of the water waves so that the wavelength is decreased. How does the change in wavelength affect the wave pattern?
Chapter 3. Wave Phenomena. Diffraction. Diffraction is the spread of wave when wave passes through an opening. The following experiment demonstrates the diffraction of water wave.